Located on Stonywood Drive in Sunset Hills, Emmenegger Nature Park has a storied history. The land began as a Silvan beach resort located along the 1932 alignment of Route 66. It opened in the 1920s and had a restaurant, amusement park, beach, dance hall, miniature steam train, and a large pool. In 1936, a quarter-mile racetrack was added for midget racing. One thing to note is that the bridge in front of the resort that carried 66 over the Merrimack was designed exactly like the Green Bridge that carried 66 over the Merrimack in Times Beach. In 1954, the resort closed, shortly before 66 was widened and a second bridge was built. The restaurant, however, remained open until 1962. While there's no trace of the resort today, the restaurant's neon sign still exists and is located inside the Route 66 State Park Visitor Center in Times Beach. In 1960, the resort's former pool was reborn as the 14-acre Club Fontainebleau. Shortly after, in 1963, the busy Interstate 244-Interstate 44 interchange was built through a patch of rolling hills behind the club, replacing that stretch of Route 66. The project greatly changed the local landscape, slicing through several country roads like Rott Road and West Watson Road. The interchange is still used today as the Interstate 270-Interstate 44 interchange. At this time, Stonywood Drive and Cragworld Drive were created to give the club access to the new interstates. In the 1970s, the club closed and Kirkwood bought it in February of 1977 for just under $213,000. In 1997, the then 70-year-old pool was visibly deteriorating and residents wanted a newer pool. In 1999, the Kirkwood Aquatic Center opened at the corner of South Geyer Road and West Monroe Avenue in Kirkwood. In 2000, the old pool was demolished and the land became part of Emmenegger Nature Park. Also on the land is the Possum Woods Conservation Area. This beautiful conservation area can trace its roots back to Edwin Lemp's Cragworld estate. Edwin, a member of the famous Lemp Brewery family of St. Louis, built his estate in 1911 and, at various times, was used as an exotic animal breeding area for the St. Louis Zoo. When visiting the park, look across the river to Yarnell Road and you might see a shipwreck. When the water is low, the hull of a steamboat called Betsy Ann emerges. The steamboat was built in 1899 in Iowa by Iowa Iron Works. If you want to learn about the boat's lengthy early history, there are several great websites online that talk about it. The boat's connections to Silvan Beach begin in 1940 when the top half was demolished in St. Louis and the hull was briefly used by Wood River Refining Company at Wood River, Illinois. She was then sold to the Merrimack Powerboat Club, a club based at Silvan Beach. During the late 1940s, facilities for the club were built on the hull and the boat became an excursion boat for both the club and the resort. In 1952 or 1953, the boat sunk during a flood. The boat's hull has sat on the bank of the Merrimack beneath Yarnell Road since that flood over 70 years ago. So this is the Russell E. Emmenegger Nature Park. It's technically in Sunset Hills, but when it was a resort, it was referred to as being in Fenton. So I just refer to the resort being in Fenton to make it easier. The pool stood where the pavilion now stands. Though it may not look busy, most of the activities down on the trail on my right. On the border of the park is the I-44 bridge over the Merrimack. There's been a bridge here since the Route 66 days in the 1930s. These bridges were built in 2019, so they're fairly new. So these are the highway bridges. There's 3 bridges here, 2 for the highway and 1 for the trail. The road underneath it is Yarnell Road. Soccer Park Road, which was once Rudder Road until 44 cut in half in the 50s, intersects near the park. You can actually see the intersection from here. Somewhere over there is the shipwreck of the Betsy Ann. It's a steamboat used by the resort that sunk in the early 50s during a flood. You can't see it now as it only emerges when the water's low. This is the entryway to the park. It's remained the same relatively since the pool is here. I actually have a picture of this when the pool was still here. Looks pretty much the same. It's a nice little pavilion that I believe you can rent out. And then the restroom facilities are behind it. None of this was here when the pool was still here. The pool actually took up this entire area. This was an Eagle project done by Grant Underhill. Doesn't say what date. This is the high water marker of the flood of '82, the same one that destroyed Times Beach. Waters reached almost 40 feet here. That's insane. So this whole area was under several feet of water. Here's the trailhead for the park's trail. There's a parking lot over here, and then the parking lot behind me as well. It's a beautiful trail. That's where I'm headed next. This is built in the late 90s, according to a stamp on the side of it. Here's the stamp on the side of the bridge. It was built in March of 1999, so right before the pool was demolished in the early 2000s. This is what the trail looks like. It's all paved and it snakes throughout the woods. There's several different branching off segments like this one from the main trail. All of it's very peaceful. There's not a whole lot to see back here, but it's a nice quiet walk. And I'm sure it looks pretty during the fall when the leaves are all different colors. Now if you make a right off of the trail on the other side of that wooden bridge, leads to this dirt section. This is a 0.89 mile loop that I guess wraps around the park. I've never been on this side before. Here's what the trailhead looks like. And then there's the main trail. And then over there is a wooden bridge. So the valley spur is 0.14 miles on my right, and then the trail continues on my left. Since I've never been here before, I'm just going to go to the one on my left. I'm pretty sure this leads you back to the park. If not, I'll loop around, so I guess it doesn't really matter which way you go, because they both lead back to the same place. Now you're on the other side of the trail. This side of the trail is more uphill than the other side. Some parts are more downhill, but for the most part, it's an uphill climb. It is beautiful though, because there isn't a whole lot of people out here like the main side of the park. Just came across this cool bluff area. So as you climb the hill, there's a flat area. There's a sign that says the trail goes to the left. Just follow the sign. I forgot to get a video of it, but it eventually leads you here. It's like a mini version of Castlewood. You can see a little bit of Fenton from here. Not a whole lot though. Here's the view from the bluffs. Can't see a whole lot, but if you raise your camera a little bit, you can see as far away as Wally's. Wow. So these are some more bluffs. You can find these by just continuing the trail for a little bit after the last section of bluffs. These are a little bit more wooded than the other ones, but they have about the same view. And they're in a very remote section of the park. These are completely invisible from the air, unlike Castlewood. The trail is just off to the left over here. This is the way back to the main part of the park from the bluffs. According to Google Maps, where I was is only 8 minutes from the main part of the park, so I'm sure there's a much shorter and easier way to get up here than the way I took. I can't even start to give you directions of where I came in to get here. But this way I think is a lot easier and more direct than the way I took. Just down the hill from the second set of bluffs is a third set. It also has a really cool looking rock here. That is cool looking. I'm sure if you took this way, it'd be a lot quicker and easier to find the bluffs than the way I took. I went the long way, I think. Now, behind this fence are glade areas, and you cannot walk over there because according to the sign, it's fragile. So just stay on the trail in this section. If you want a direct path to the bluffs, take this side of the loop trail. This is by this side of the paved trail, giant mound, and a wooden fence.